We are seeing continuing AI integrations into all sorts of apps and services. TikTok bans are continuing in Europe and Canada. And why other parts of the world are kind of going back to the office while we're still in this hybrid universe. Those topics up next on Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. I'm Keith Shaw, host of Today in Tech. We are going to talk about a lot of different things, especially in the AI space. ChatGPT is still very hot, and it's being integrated into all sorts of new applications and services. We're also going to touch upon some TikTok bans that are gaining momentum and some workplace news around people in Europe and Asia that are returning to the office more than Americans. I'm going to bring in my old friend Chris here. He's behind the computers, behind the buttons there. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going very well. Let's jump right into a lot of the AI integrations that we're seeing this week. Bing, Microsoft and Bing, they're now integrating all of the ChatGPT functionality into Windows 11. It's now being put into the Windows taskbar. Of course it is, because that's what Microsoft is doing. They've announced that they're going to do this, and this is now going to be integrated into this. You're going to start seeing it into Office apps pretty soon. They have not made an official announcement on that. Some other big news is I finally got off the wait list. So I did get an email yesterday that said I can now use the Bing search engine / ChatGPT chat functionality. It's not the easiest way to get it. I had to download the Microsoft Edge browser, and I had to do it on my Mac, which was, not very pleasant. You're sort of getting back into the world of the Microsoft. Edge is the browser that took over for Internet Explorer.
Right.
Oh, you are. Do you have a Windows 11 machine, Chris? Are you?
I do.
You are in a Windows environment, right?
I am, but I hate it. I prefer Windows 10.
Okay.
Or even Windows XP at this point. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not a huge fan of
XP.
Windows
That
11.
even goes before 7.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more so just like the user interface. I'm just not a fan of.
Yeah. So what's weird about so this Edge browser, and again they do their best, but like it just hits you with all sorts of like it's like, thanks for being here. Here's all this great stuff you can do. Here's news. Here's like a game you can play. Here's all this stuff. Here's an ad. Here's, and it's like, I just want a browser. And again, that's why I like Google Chrome, because you could just be like, Google Chrome, it just pops up and it goes, what do you want to search for? Or open your tabs, and I go to my sites immediately. And I know I can probably do that with Edge, but I'm comfortable in my Google browserness.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Edge and Google Chrome, they're actually one and the same. I believe Edge uses the same database. It's all the same. They use the same database as Google Chrome. It's just like
it's just about a familiarity to it.
I mean, it's just about a preference, right? Like, I'm used to Google Chrome. I'm used to the user interface. I'm used to the shortcuts and features. It's kind of like I've been using it for most of my life. I don't have a reason to switch. So
right.
I think that's what people are coming against with, is just staying with their preferred browser.
So I think that the initial rush in terms of the Bing AI integrated ChatGPT, they sent it out to all of the cool people, all the cool kids, like the New York Times journalists and the Wall Street Journal journalists, and all the people that signed up after that. I'm finally on the list. I don't know how long it took me to basically get the invite. I don't know if other people are still not able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But you haven't signed up yet, right? Are you going to sign up at all?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Not at all.
So
I mean,
maybe they have released it to everybody on the wait list. You could still sign up if you haven't gotten to it. Just go to there's links on how to do that. So I think now at least the user base is growing to the effect of what you can do with it. And I think that all the weird conversations that people were having with it, Microsoft figured out how to sort of stop that, because I went on and tried it for about an hour yesterday, and I was trying to think of, I've used ChatGPT, so I know that it can write a poem. I know that it can find me a recipe. I know it can do all of these creative things. I'm trying to think in my brain, well, what can Bing do that ChatGPT can't? And that whole idea is that you can now ask it things that are relevant to today or last week or or even last year. I think that the ChatGPT cutoff was 2021, so it might not know a lot of things that happened last year. But again, it's still about whether, are you using it as a search bar? Are you using it as a AI conversationalist? Are you using it to come up with something creative? The best thing I could do is because I know that ChatGPT doesn't know about me as host of Today in Tech, because I didn't start doing this until last November, and we started the new shows in January. So ChatGPT knows nothing about Keith Shaw, tech journalist, other than the stuff I did back when I worked at Network World and some of my other former gigs. So I asked the new Bing sort of like, hey, what do you know about me? It didn't know how old I was, which is good. I'm actually very thankful that nobody can know how old I am, because I don't put that information out online. So it couldn't tell me how old it couldn't tell me how old I was. It did, and then I did tell it, hey, I'm the host of Today in Tech. It went to the YouTube channel, gathered all sorts of information. And then I had it write a rap song about me, and so that was what I could think of in terms of some things to do with it. There's a story by Preston Gala on Computer World, who actually used it. If you want to bring that story up, Chris, yes, Bing's. So Preston was also granted, I think, on the wait list. I think he was granted to be on his wait list time was over, so he's in now. So he decided to start using it for business, and it has an interesting story about all the different business tasks it was trying to do, and he didn't experience any of the sort of the wackiness, but he actually came away with it that if this was an employee of his, he would have fired it, because it kept refusing to do some things that he was asking it to do, like create a bar chart or answer some questions that he was looking for. I found that because it's integrated into search, when it doesn't know exactly, when the ChatGPT AI doesn't know how to answer it, it falls back on the search engine. Like for example, today I asked it, hey, I'm having a bad week. What can I do to turn the bad week around? And
that's a vague question.
Well, it's an open-ended question, to be honest. But then the first thing it does is it goes searching for how to turn a bad week around, and then it just starts giving me tips like I should move to a different work spot. I should stand like Wonder Woman. I should forgive myself for my mistakes. I should socialize with someone. I should exercise. I should listen to a favorite song. Like, these are things that probably would show up in a general search engine as well. You would find a blog post about 5 ways on turning your bad week into a good one. And then I just asked it another random question. I asked it what its favorite song was. And, it never actually admits to having something that's favorite. The first thing was, I don't have a favorite song, but I enjoy listening to different genres and artists. And, so it likes Bohemian Rhapsody. It likes John Lennon's Imagine. It likes Happy by Pharrell Williams. And then, I don't know this one, Despacito by Luis Fonsi featuring Daddy Yankee. This is a popular Latin pop song. And I think that it's not like it's going to go, I think you should listen to Metallica or...
Well, it doesn't know what you like,
No, it's not telling, it's telling me that those are its favorite songs. And
gotcha.
And then it immediately asked me what my favorite song is. It's like, I don't want to tell you what my favorite song is. I was asking you what your favorite song was, and you gave me this bland answer. So I'm still going to kind of play with it for a while. The interesting part also, it's not just Bing and Microsoft. Snapchat is now announced that they're going to integrate AI into their conversation bot, and in fact, they're actually warning people in advance you might experience some AI hallucinations, which is similar to the effect of now they call it hallucination. Is basically when the AI just decides, screw it, I'm just gonna spit out random things. That's apparently called a hallucination. Do you have that story up? I don't know if you have that one.
No,
sorry in advance. Okay. At the same time, Mark Zuckerberg, our pal over at Meta. All right, I have to laugh at this because clearly, Facebook changing its name to Meta and them thinking that the metaverse was going to be the future. All of a sudden, they took a 180, and now they're basically announcing a new team at Meta is going to be working on AI products, and they're going to put this into Instagram and WhatsApp, and probably Facebook at some point. I just don't think that they like being Facebook anymore. Do you? Do you get that feeling?
Well, I get the feeling that they need something to succeed. So they failed with Meta. That didn't kick off the way they thought. So now they're looking for the new shiny object to get out there to market and sell. So the next great thing is this AI stuff, right?
Yeah, I want to read the quote from Mark Zuckerberg because it says basically nothing, but I just love. All right, quote, we're exploring experiences with text, like chat and WhatsApp and Messenger, with images like creative Instagram filters and ad formats, and with video and multimodal experiences, Zuckerberg said.
Yeah.
We have a lot of foundational work to do before getting to the really futuristic experiences, but I'm excited about all the new things we'll build along the way. It's like, okay, you're not really saying what you're going to do with it.
I mean, that stuff already exists.
Yeah, I mean, does it just mean that when I'm on Instagram, I can now have the same conversation that I can have on 6 other sites?
Honestly, I think he should just focus on making Facebook better, like a better social media
I get
app.
so many recommendations
Right.
on Facebook pages that I have no interest in, and I can't even like tell it to stop.
Yeah.
The only thing I can do with those is I can snooze them for 30 days, and then maybe at that point the algorithm figures out that I'm not interested in 17 different stories and all of these. I don't want to call them fake sites, but they're websites that are just. I don't even know if they're legitimate or not, but they talk about a single topic like, wrestling or video games or some of the other stuff that I'm into. It's like, all right, I'm especially on my mobile device, I'm constantly clicking something. It's like, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in that. I just want stuff from the people that are in my friends groups and some of the groups that I'm in. Just give me that stuff. And it doesn't want to. It wants to, because it wants to show me ads. It wants to show me things to buy.
Right.
So I'm kind of annoyed by Microsoft. I'm not, and Meta. And
Yeah.
so, but I mean, it does show an overall trend of all right. So it's not just it's not just Microsoft doing this. It's like everyone's going in. And the conversation that we had last week with Ken and Mike from Macworld, Ken Mingus from Computer World. Apple, in the meantime, they're just sitting back and they're like that. They're like that cool kid that's sitting in the back of the cafeteria, just watching all the other stuff go on. And at some point, it's just going to go, all right, guys, I got this. And then like they're just going to come out and go, bum, 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 and boom. And then AI will be solved. And I think Amazon's doing the same thing too, because we have not heard a lot about any Amazon. I mean, integrating this into Alexa makes sense to me. And if it makes sense to me, it should be making sense to a lot of other people too. It's like, again, I want more to do with this thing that's in my house already. Like, why can't you just make this thing smarter? You don't have that in your house though, do you, Chris? Do you have an Alexa?
I have a Google
Home
Dot thing, but I mean,
maybe
we
that'll
don't
be
really use it.
Yeah,
We just use it to set like a timer when we cook, but like that's it. I mean, like here's the thing with I mean, this is just my, I guess, general thought on the tech. I feel like it becomes too much. You know what I mean? Like, I think if tech could just fulfill basic kind of tasks, I mean, that's all it really needs to do.
But don't we want it to become like Jarvis from Iron Man? Like we want to walk into our house and going, Jarvis, turn on the lights. Jarvis, cook. How long is it going to take me start my dinner or make me a cup of coffee?
I mean,
people see that in the movies and they go, oh, well, we could do that if you just buy this piece of hardware and
eventually
integrate this system and tie it all in together.
I mean, here's my thought on that. I mean, eventually we're gonna have tech do everything for us. What's left for us to do? I think eventually we'll be like the people in WALL-E in our little hover chairs. And we'll kind of be in our own reality and not realize what's going on around us.
I think maybe you and I won't become the WALL-E people, but maybe a couple generations down the road, they will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So get out and exercise, everybody.
Yes.
Right.
Get up and move.
Get up and move. All right. So let's move on to another thing that has irritated you and me this week. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal where they figured out that an iPhone feature is now helping criminals steal users' entire digital life, and this is the story. Basically, it's. All right. How do I explain
this? Is silly. I mean, honestly, this is just silly.
They're blaming Apple for this, but it's not necessarily an Apple vulnerability. It's more of there's a trend where criminals are going to nightclubs and bars and where young people are hanging out, and they're basically stealing their money based on apps that are on the phone because they're getting in by stealing their passcodes. And the way that they're doing it is that, if you've got your, they're like, oh, hey, so let's say I'm at a club, because I would never be at a club. So let's say this was 50 years ago, and I was at a club, or, right, 30, maybe 30 years ago. And I was at a club, and someone's like, hey, Keith, let me see some of your photos or something on your phone. And then as I do that, I type in my passcode. They memorize this passcode, these criminals. And then later, when maybe people have been drinking a little bit more, they somehow swipe the phone. They know the passcode. They get in, boom, they steal Apple Pay information. They steal Venmo information. They change the passcode so you can't get into it now. They disable the whole Find My iPhone. They grab the money, and then they sell the phone. I mean, and this is a trend that was been spotted in places like New York and other big cities.
Right. So basically, all that's happening is someone's looking over someone's shoulder as they're typing in their passcode,
right?
And they're remembering their passcode, and then they eventually, at some point during the night, they steal this person's phone and they put in that passcode and steal everything that they have. Right. So, like when we look at the article, it's like a basic iPhone feature helps criminals steal your entire digital life.
It's a little misleading.
It's very misleading. Yeah. I would say user error helps criminals steal your entire digital life. It's not the phone's fault.
Not being responsible with your phone helps criminals steal your digital life.
And here's the other thing. The only way we're going to, let criminals steal your entire life is if you do put your entire life on your phone.
Okay. So first of all, don't leave your phone out.
Yes.
Second, put your phone in your pocket.
Right. But
second of all,
okay,
there are the newer phones, and I do actually miss the fingerprint. They got rid of the fingerprint thing because they replaced it with facial recognition. So, I can unlock things with my mug here. The problem is, so there is a small thing where if it doesn't recognize you, it will automatically then go towards your passcode. So if you steal my phone and try to get in and it looks at you and sees, well, there's this giant guy with a beard. There's no way that's Keith.
Right.
But then it'll go, okay, well, what the passcode is. So if you have stolen my passcode, you can get in.
Right.
There's not another sort of second attempt, or I think you can tell it after a certain number of attempts to just completely lock it out.
Yeah, I mean,
if you don't like if the Face ID doesn't work, but it does sort of default to that passcode.
Right, because you need to have another way to get into your phone, right? So, but I think, look, if we're all up in arms about this and super concerned about it, all Apple has to do is just add the fingerprint scanner back to the phone, use the Face ID as its primary source of unlocking, and then if that fails, then it goes to your fingerprint. And then for whatever reason, if you happen to get your fingers cut off, then it'll go to passcode, and then you can just use your stubs to just put in your passcode, okay?
I think if you're getting
so if we're all up in arms about that, if I were Apple, I'd do that. But
if you're getting to the point where your fingers are being cut off, you've got bigger problems than a stolen iPhone.
Yeah,
but again, now what you brought up was the bigger issue. Or not a bigger issue, but another issue is how much of our digital lives are we putting on our phones?
Everything. We're putting everything on our phone.
So
look, like our phones today, they are our holy grail. It's the Rosetta Stone of our life.
Yes.
Literally a Rosetta Stone. It kind of looks like a brick, right? Because that's what a Rosetta Stone is. It's like, it's the Rosetta Stone.
Got it.
I don't like using the, what is it called, Google Pay or Apple Pay or whatever, because you're tying your payment methods to your phone. So literally, if someone steals your phone, well, okay, they have access to all your credit cards, your debit cards, your bank account, your address even. Yep. They can access your Facebook, Instagram, and even if you don't have your cards tied to your phone, at least one could have, so like if you have like credit cards, right, your credit card companies, right, in order to get to those apps, you still need to use your fingerprint. You can set it to use your fingerprint. So at the end of the day, it's all user error. And I do think we have to move away towards putting your credit cards on your phone. Because then you won't have that problem.
I don't have anything. I think my Apple Pay may have an expired credit card on there that I haven't updated in weeks or months or years. I do have Venmo, but I think in order to do a payment, it still has to look at my face.
Yeah.
I think I have allowed it, so it won't let me do a passcode for that. But again, in order to do that, I have to now start going through all of my security settings and figuring out what it does and what it doesn't do. Mm-hmm. And again, the answer for me is just I'm not going to keep my phone out and try to lose it.
Right. And, it's in the article, they gave a bunch of examples from individuals who had their phone stolen.
Right.
And then they had all, their bank accounts wiped, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 just pulled in one day. And it's like, yes, don't tie your cards to the phone, to those payment features, right?
Yeah.
When you hold your phone up to a card reader, right? You know how it'll automatically link to your card and you get money deducted out of it. Get rid of that. It uses the RFID chip in your phone in order to do that. That's horrible. I'd advise everyone not to use that feature. Sure, you can have your bank, your card app on your phone, and just make sure that the security around that's good. Make sure it's tied to either Face ID or your fingerprint. But yeah, it is kind of crazy. After having read the article, it's kind of like, yeah, you know what? Our whole lives are tied to our phone.
The other thing is just stay out of nightclubs.
Yeah, that too. And yeah, keep
because people could steal my wallet at a nightclub.
Sure.
And they're gonna get my credit card and my driver's license.
Yeah.
And what little cash I have, I usually don't carry a lot of cash.
Just be responsible. Just be responsible around your stuff. If someone's looking over your shoulder as you put a password in, just turn away and hide it. And
I know.
So it's no surprise it's being done at bars. Yeah. Because when you're at bars, you're drinking, you're not quite yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways,
they're not doing this at church.
Yeah.
Or the library.
Right.
Maybe thieves will start moving to the library and try to steal. So that leads to our next story, which is about another Wall Street Journal story that just kind of popped up to me as interesting. And this is the one about the calendar. That people apparently are putting their personal lives in their Google Calendar or their office calendar. And I just find that really weird. Like, also, it's got a great graphic right there. You can see this is an illustration that someone did, and it's like, someone put in nap time on there, and then someone put their colonoscopy. And apparently they don't realize that privacy settings at their company might be seeing these details, because if someone is trying to set up an appointment, they look at your calendar to see if you're available. Again, rather than just asking you, are you available, or whatever. But then people are finding out that they're having awkward conversations because they're discovering that, like, these people's personal lives are on there. And some people are saying, well, it's a good thing that all my personal stuff is on there because it shows that I'm a human being and that I need time for myself or whatever. And it's like, okay, like, I grew up in an era where you didn't put everything on your calendar. The only thing on your calendar should be for meetings that you've set up or where you're going to be away or whatever. So it's an interesting feature story, but it shows that it has to be up to the user. It's not the technology's fault. The technology makes it available, but you have to understand as a user, can other people see what I'm putting on here? And if they can, how can I make sure that they can't? Or stop putting that stuff in. Or, if you need to block out that time because you're going to go get a colonoscopy, just say out of office. Personal time or personal or doctor appointment or something like that. Like, don't put the details of your life.
So this is more about like shared calendars, right? Calendars that are shared amongst.
Yes, if you're a person, then maybe there's an admin of a calendar, and that admin could still see it. Your boss might be able to see it. I think when in the new office, for example, when I'm trying to schedule a recording session with you. It tells me whether or not you've got something blocked off or not. And I think if for shared calendars, we can see each other's sort of calendar.
Right.
There is an interesting offshoot of this is that remember when there were meeting rooms, and you could sort of schedule if you had a client coming in for a meeting and you would need a specific meeting room.
Yeah.
The meeting rooms were set up as they had their own little calendar, and you could set up a meeting and then the resource as the meeting room. What was interesting is that you could always find out if someone had blocked off a long amount of time in every meeting room for a certain day. That's how you knew that there were layoffs coming.
Really?
At other companies that I've worked at. Like, that's how you could tell. Like, you could always be like, oh, all of the meeting rooms in the entire company are reserved from 9 till 4. Something's going to be coming up because
I see. Okay.
So you couldn't schedule a meeting so that was sort of a loophole on figuring out if something was going down.
Ooh, I gotta.
And
gotta keep
in that article,
mind.
someone says they use that for the same exact reason. They look to see if there are big meetings that people are doing, and if your boss has blocked out a big chunk of time on their calendar, then maybe something's up. So
Interesting.
yeah, I just found that interesting. All right, let's move on to another fun story. This is the TikTok stuff. TikTok is being banned on executive staff devices in Europe and Canada as well. So we've talked recently about some of the TikTok stuff that was going on at college campuses in states here, but now Canada and Europe are just being like, "Yep, we're just going to ban them from."
They're jumping on the bandwagon.
They're jumping on the bandwagon.
Bandwagon.
I think in the U.S. We haven't heard a lot lately around this. I don't think I think momentum has slowed. I think maybe the states that wanted to do it have done it, and then the other states haven't done it yet, or they don't care about it, or they don't think it's as big of an issue, or they're waiting for the feds. I don't know if the feds are going to do it as well.
Because if we look back at how colleges banned it, or colleges are banning it,
right?
They're only banning it through Wi-Fi,
right?
Whereas
it's different for the governments because those are being government-issued devices.
Right. So they do have the power to just not allow it on that phone because they can. Because
now, if you bring in your personal phone, you could still probably access it. But does that device then have access to a corporate network or a government network?
I feel like it
gets a little tricky there, too.
Yeah, of like how would they block it, right? But I feel like they could use maybe some geolocation, like geo-blocking. Maybe they could do that. I don't know.
There is supposed to be something this month where the head of TikTok is supposed to be testifying against at a congressional hearing. So
I'm thinking that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it will pop up again. This will as this guy testifies, we'll start to hear about whether this will have momentum or not, or if he's going to shut it down. It should be interesting.
Yeah,
I still don't use TikTok that much at all.
I don't use it. I hate it. I don't use it at all.
It's just it's just two old guys yelling at the cloud here.
Right.
All right. So something that the other thing you wanted to talk about too was this this story that came out in the Wall Street Journal about Americans are still working from home, but Europeans and Asians are heading back to the office. I want to read some stuff here. Return to office rates in cities like Paris and Tokyo have climbed over 75%, while the U.S. is often sitting around about half occupancy. U.S. office occupancy stands at 40% to 60% of pre-pandemic levels, varying within that range by month and by city. That compares with a 70 to 90% rate in Europe and the Middle East, according to JLL, a property services firm that manages 4.6 billion square feet of real estate globally. Now, the return to office trend, why is it happening in Europe and Asia versus America? This article is saying that because people have bigger homes in the U.S., might be one of the reasons, because they have more space to have a home office, whereas if you're in a house maybe that doesn't have a dedicated space for an office, you have to then work in a living room or a kitchen, and that might not be convenient for you. But you don't buy that.
I don't buy it as much because there's a large portion of us in the U.S. who also have apartments, right? And apartments aren't 2,000-3,000 square feet, right? They're somewhat small, so I don't really buy it. But they're also stating that the commute length is long, and yeah, sure, but also in other countries, commute length is also similar in length.
Do they mean commute rate where you're driving into a work, or is it more? Does a commute count if you're if you're living in a city and you have to take a subway into work, does that count as a commute time?
I think it does.
Or a train, right?
I think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd much rather commute via train or subway than getting into a car by myself.
Yeah. Kind of save on gas and...
Well, yeah, because you got to pay attention when you're driving. You don't have to pay attention if you're sitting on a train.
Right. But then also you got to pay for whatever
Other
the
than
fee
people
is
trying
for
to steal my iPhone.
Right. Looking over your shoulder.
Yeah. My
but-
passcode.
Yeah, so I don't buy it as much. I do think there is a work culture difference between U.S. and also Europe and Asia. I think here in the U.S. we're just happy working from home, whereas in other countries they're more geared towards being in person, maybe seeing people physically. So I mean that's the only thing I can think of.
The story does say that the tighter labor market in the U.S., the unemployment rate is only 3.4% in the U.S. at the moment, where in Europe it's 6.1%. Now, even 6.1% is not a terribly high unemployment rate, but maybe people are thinking, well, I have to do what my boss says because I could be out of a job and it'd be harder to get a new job. Versus here, where you just know that if you do lose your job, you're going to probably be able to find another one relatively quickly. I mean, that could be part of it too. It could be cultural too. I mean,
I think in large part, in my opinion, I do think it's cultural because I mean, we just don't want to go back in person. I honestly, I think it's more of a want.
I think it's also part.
We don't want.
I just think
to
people
go
just
back
don't.
in.
People just don't like working.
That too. But I think that's a little bit of an extreme, but also at the same time, me saying, "Hey, people in the U.S. don't want to drive into work." I do also think it's a little bit of extreme, but part of me says, yeah, I think maybe it's that. I don't know.
It is weird that we're still talking about this.
It's weird.
3 years after this whole pandemic, and it's like, are we going to be talking about this in three more years? Like in 2026, are we going to have an episode where like, why are people not back to work? Or of course, by then we'll be the Wally people at that point, right?
They're going to turn all of the corporate office buildings into luxury apartments. Where they could charge, I don't know, $3,000 a month for a single bed, half bath room. I don't know.
I just think maybe by then we'll have flying cars and we'll all be living in our pods. And
who knows?
We'll be complaining about something that's going on. My pod isn't working correctly. What? Let's talk about that on the next Tech Talk.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, that's it for the news this week. So thanks for joining us on this episode, as always.